In the heart of the Jordanian desert, where time seems to have stopped, an impossible city emerges, not built but liberated from the very rock, a labyrinth of monumental facades and royal tombs sculpted from pink sandstone. Petra. For centuries, it was the epicenter of a prosperous civilization, an oasis of wealth and culture in the midst of nothingness. But who were its creators? How could a tribe of nomads, desert shepherds, erect a metropolis that would rival Rome and Athens? And why, after reaching the peak of their power, did they fade away almost without a trace, leaving the world a riddle of stone and silence? To unravel the mystery of their origins, we must travel back to the 6th century before Christ. The Arabian Peninsula was a mosaic of nomadic tribes in perpetual motion, competing for pastures and water. In this relentless environment, trade was not a luxury, but a survival strategy. The Nabateans, with a vision that transcended the horizon of the dunes, began to weave a network of caravan routes, connecting the treasures of Arabia with the thirsty powers of the Mediterranean. Their early history, however, would be written in the shadow of giants, the Persian and Macedonian empires, whose ambitions would define the geopolitical landscape of the region. Among the powers that shaped this scenario was King Nabonidus of Babylon. His military campaigns across the desert in that same 6th century before Christ underscored the strategic importance of these trade routes. However, the true seed of their empire would germinate later, when the Nabataeans found in the canyons of Petra the perfect place to take root. Just at the dawn of the Hellenistic era, the conquest of Alexander the Great and the subsequent Roman expansion brought not only armies but also a torrent of trade and cultural influences that the Nabataeans knew how to absorb and transform. As their wealth grew, their social structure became more complex. The figure of the tribal leader evolved into that of a king. One of the first names that emerges from the chronicles is that of Aretas the First. The question is inevitable: how could a leader like him unify scattered clans and forge a nation from the dust of the desert? The process that transformed the Nabateans from nomads to city builders was gradual, a constant dance between challenge and opportunity. As they settled, they faced their greatest enemy, thirst. Their response was a feat of engineering. They developed a sophisticated system of cisterns, dams and channels carved into the rock, capable of capturing and storing every precious drop of rain. This hydraulic mastery not only allowed them to cultivate in the desert, but also granted them absolute control over the most vital resource in the region. But was it solely their mastery of water that was the key to their meteoric rise, or is there a deeper secret hidden in their social organization and commercial acumen? The consequences of this innovation were immediate and spectacular. The security of water and the protection of their routes attracted caravans from all over the known world. Petra became the vibrant heart of the trade in incense, myrrh, spices and silks, a meeting point where goods, ideas and cultures merged. However, prosperity is a beacon that attracts both traders and conquerors. The success of the Nabataeans did not go unnoticed by neighboring empires, which watched them with a mix of admiration and greed. The fundamental enigma of Nabatean origins lies in their astonishing capacity for adaptation. They transformed a hostile environment into a fortress, fused foreign influences into a unique art, and turned their knowledge of the desert into power. Despite their humble beginnings as shepherds, they raised one of the most breathtaking cities of antiquity. But what other secrets await, sealed in the silent tombs and in the shadows of the temples of Petra? The echo of their history drives us to move forward, to leave behind their origins, to witness the spectacular rise of their capital. A journey to discover how Petra became the undisputed jewel of the trade routes of the ancient world. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. The transformation of a nomadic refuge into a vibrant commercial center was not an accident, but the result of a calculated strategy. During the 3rd and 2nd centuries before Christ, the region we now know as Jordan was a crossroads of civilizations, where ancient trade routes intertwined. In this setting, Petra emerged as the jewel of the Nabatean crown, its rise driven by the innate ability of its leaders to capitalize on its privileged geographical location. The historical context in which Petra would flourish was defined by a growing demand for exotic goods in the Mediterranean. Spices, incense, and other luxury products from Arabia and beyond were highly valued in the markets of Egypt, Greece, and Rome. This period was characterized by a globalized trade system that connected distant civilizations, each with its own ambitions. In this interconnected world, the Nabataeans, a tribe that had made the desert their home, positioned themselves as the masters of the caravan routes. It was the Nabatean leaders, shrewd and forward-thinking, who transformed Petra into an essential hub for trade. They understood that controlling access to trade routes was the key to their prosperity. With figures such as King Aretas the First at the helm, the Nabataeans began to consolidate their power, establishing agreements and alliances with other peoples while perfecting their logistics and security. This king, along with his successor, Aretas II, was instrumental in creating a network that not only facilitated trade, but also ensured the protection of caravans venturing through the desert. A key event in this process was the construction of infrastructures that supported the transit of caravans. The Nabataeans, with their deep knowledge of the environment, created wells, cisterns, and rest stations, crucial elements for any traveler crossing the arid landscape. This ingenuity not only attracted merchants from diverse cultures, but also established Petra as a safe haven in the midst of an inhospitable region. The city transformed into a meeting point where not only goods were exchanged, but also ideas and knowledge. The development of Petra was not limited to its function as a commercial center. The city was a reflection of the wealth that flowed through its streets. The imposing facades carved into the rock, which would later become the symbol of the city, were witnesses to the economic power enjoyed by its inhabitants. During this period, the Nabatean population began to assimilate elements from surrounding cultures, merging Arab, Greek, and even Egyptian traditions into a vibrant cultural melting pot. This cultural exchange raises a question: was it a sign of cosmopolitanism, or did it hide latent tensions that threatened Nabatean cohesion? As the years passed, Petra's prosperity began to attract the attention not only of merchants but also of rising empires. The ambition for territorial expansion of the Roman Empire began to cast its shadow on the horizon. The decisions made by the Nabatean leaders in this context would be crucial for the fate of their city. While some proposed strategic alliances with Rome, others advocated for resistance and independence. This internal tension, fueled by the desire to maintain their autonomy in the face of an expansionist power, raised questions about the future of Petra. Would it be able to sustain its legacy in the face of such a formidable force? The consequences of these events were tangible. The wealth accumulated through trade made Petra an attractive target for invasions and external ambitions. As trade routes diversified and new powers emerged, the city faced a dilemma: adapt to the changes or risk being relegated to obscurity. The echoes of merchants, caravans, and cultural interactions resonated through the city's corridors, but the shadow of uncertainty was also felt. The enigma surrounding the history of Petra during this period lies in the apparent fragility of its rise. Despite its success, the Nabateans found themselves in a constant crossroads. Could they maintain their influence and prosperity in a world that was changing at a dizzying pace? The answer to this question would reveal itself over time, but inevitably, the history of Petra would move toward a new chapter. In the next chapter, we will explore the astonishing rock architecture that defines Petra, an artistic legacy that still overwhelms us today with its magnificence. The techniques that the Nabateans used to sculpt their city into the stone became an enigma in themselves, a testament to their ingenuity and creativity. What secrets lie behind each carved facade? The answer will take us beyond the surface toward the very essence of Nabatean civilization. That vital connection between trade and prosperity not only shaped the economy of Petra, but also left an indelible mark on its architecture, in an environment where the very rock seemed to hold the secrets of a glorious past. The Nabateans became masters of monumental sculpture, transforming the aridity of the desert into a canvas of stone. The architecture of Petra is a testament to human ingenuity and presents a technical challenge that still today sparks debates among researchers about how they could achieve such wonders in the midst of an inhospitable landscape. The historical context surrounding the construction of Petra is essential for understanding the magnitude of this feat. During the 1st century before Christ and the 1st century after Christ, the region was marked by the rise of the spice and incense trade, which granted the Nabataeans a prominent role in the exchange between East and West. This economic flourishing, however, did not arise from nothing. The Nabataeans, descendants of nomadic tribes, had developed a deep knowledge of trade routes and the environment surrounding them. The need to establish a city that served as a trade center and safe haven drove this civilization to create a metropolis that defied the limitations of its geography. The leadership of Aretas the Fourth, who ruled between the 9th year before Christ and the 40th year after Christ, marked a decisive period in Nabatean history. Aretas the Fourth not only consolidated the political and military power of Petra, but also promoted an ambitious construction program. With a clear vision of what Petra should be, he made key decisions that allowed his people to transform the rock into a livable space. It was under his mandate that the imposing facades of temples and tombs began to be sculpted, whose intricate decorations have fascinated archaeologists and tourists alike. How did the Nabataeans manage to carry out such architectural feats with the technology available in their time? The architectural techniques used in Petra are a testament to the creativity and skill of the Nabataeans. Unlike the brick and adobe constructions typical of other civilizations, the Nabateans opted for rock as their primary material. This choice was not merely aesthetic. Sculpting in stone allowed them to create structures that would withstand the passage of time. The local sandstone, with its warm hue and relative ease of being worked, became the ideal medium to bring their architectural ambitions to life. The planning of their buildings began with a meticulous selection of the rocky wall. The Nabateans identified suitable formations and, using tools such as chisels and hammers, began to trace the lines of their designs from the top down. The technique of negative carving allowed them to sculpt the facades from the existing rock, transforming the natural landscape into an extension of their own culture. With patience and often under difficult conditions, Nabatean artisans shaped monuments that to this day stand as guardians of their legacy. Among the most emblematic structures is Al-Khazna, also known as the Treasury. This facade, rising to more than 40 meters in height, is a perfect example of Nabatean mastery. With its elaborate frieze and columns, Al-Khazna reflects a fusion of Hellenistic and Eastern styles, a testament to the cultural crossroads that characterized Petra. However, what was the original intention behind its construction? Was it a royal tomb, a temple, or did it have a deeper purpose that still eludes us? Another clear example of Nabatean architectural complexity is the monastery, known as Ad-Dir. This monument, built atop a mountain, features a monumental facade that stands out for its grandeur. To reach it, visitors must ascend a path that winds through the desert, a journey that seems to invite reflection on the effort and devotion that the Nabateans had toward their gods. Its construction, like many others in Petra, involved community work, evidencing a cohesive society with a strong sense of identity. How did they manage to mobilize so many people to carry out these titanic works in such a challenging environment? The water systems also reflect the innovative capacity of the Nabataeans. Through ingenious techniques of collection and storage, they built cisterns and channels that allowed them to make the most of every drop of rain in the desert. These engineering works not only ensured the water supply to the city, but also enabled the cultivation of adjacent lands, contributing to the community's self-sufficiency. The ability to manipulate water in an arid environment is undoubtedly an aspect that highlights the skill of a people who knew how to adapt to adversity. The immediate consequences of these architectural decisions were significant. Petra became a symbol of power and wealth, attracting merchants and travelers from all over the ancient world. The city not only established itself as a commercial center, but also transformed into a cultural reference point, where influences from various civilizations intertwined. As the Nabateans sculpted their environment, they also sculpted their identity, creating a legacy that would endure through the centuries. However, the enigma persists. Despite the magnificence of their constructions, why was Petra ultimately relegated to oblivion? The answer may be hidden in the very sand that has embraced its ruins, as the winds of time carry away its secrets. The question remains in the air. What other mysteries lie in the shadows of this lost city, waiting to be unveiled? As we delve into the next chapter, we will focus on the rise of trade that solidified Petra as a nerve center of exchange. The prosperity that followed its architectural feats was both a blessing and a curse, and its impact would resonate in the echoes of history. What trade secrets and challenges would the Nabateans face in their quest to maintain their city at the pinnacle of the ancient world? That connection between trade and the prosperity of Petra was not coincidental. In a world where trade routes were the pulse of economic development, the Nabateans emerged as masters in the art of logistics and exchange. In this chapter, we will unveil how the rise of the spice trade, incense, and other goods not only transformed Petra into a hub of commerce, but also cemented its legacy in ancient history. The historical context surrounding this phenomenon is of great interest. In the 1st century before Christ, the Middle East was in a delicate balance of power. Great civilizations such as Egypt, Persia, and Rome competed for control of the ports and trade routes. However, the Nabataeans, with their cunning and knowledge of the desert, took advantage of this dynamic. They controlled the routes that connected Arabia with the Mediterranean, allowing them to become key intermediaries in the trade of exotic products that were highly valued in the ancient world. Among the most coveted goods were spices, which were not only used to season food, but also had medicinal and ritual applications. Incense, for its part, was considered a product of great value, used in religious ceremonies and in the worship of gods. The demand for these products was insatiable, and amid this commercial bustle, Petra emerged as a beacon of prosperity. The key players in this commercial boom included Nabatean leaders whose strategic decisions shaped the future of the city. Aretas the Third, for example, was a king who promoted trade relations with powers such as Egypt and Rome, establishing treaties that guaranteed the safety of caravans crossing his territory. His ability to negotiate and maintain peace in a region plagued by conflicts was fundamental to the flourishing of Petra. But was the talent of a single king enough to sustain the success of such an emblematic city? The unfolding of events during this period is a complex process filled with challenges. Caravans laden with spices and other precious goods traversed the desert, facing sandstorms and the threat of bandits. However, the Nabateans had developed a system of safe routes and rest stations where merchants could resupply and rest. This ingenious logistical design not only protected the caravans but also fostered an atmosphere of trust among the merchants traveling through the region. As the caravans arrived in Petra, the city transformed into a bustling market. The streets, often crowded, resonated with the echo of the languages of merchants coming from places as far away as India and Arabia. The aromas of spices, the murmur of transactions, and the shine of luxury items created a vibrant atmosphere. However, behind this prosperity lay tensions. The competition for control of the routes led to conflicts with other powers, including the Romans and other Arab groups. The immediate consequences of this commercial boom were profound. Petra not only grew wealthy, but also became a cultural center where diverse traditions and practices converged. Prosperity attracted artisans, architects, and thinkers, creating a breeding ground for innovation and cultural exchange. Nevertheless, this growth also brought challenges such as the risk of overextension and excessive dependence on trade. The enigma that arises from this period is intriguing. To what extent can material prosperity be sustained without a solid cultural and social foundation? As Petra solidified its position as a commercial center, the Nabateans faced the question of how to balance their wealth with the preservation of their cultural identity. As the echoes of the caravans faded and the merchants withdrew, Petra found itself at the pinnacle of its splendor. But like any success story, this one was also destined to face challenges that would test its resilience. The decisions made in the years to come would define the fate of this mystical city and its legacy in history. As we delve into the daily life of Petra in the next chapter, we will explore how this vibrant trade not only impacted the economy but also influenced the religious practices and traditions of its inhabitants. What secrets lay hidden in the day-to-day life of this city, where every stone seemed to tell the story of a glorious past? The commercial prosperity that had cemented the power of Petra was also reflected in the daily lives of its inhabitants. In a city where the echo of transactions resonated in every carved stone, the everyday life of the Nabataeans was an intricate tapestry of rituals, commerce and coexistence. But what was daily life really like in this enigmatic place? The historical context of Petra in the 1st century before Christ was characterized by its flourishing economy. Thanks to its strategic location, situated at the crossroads of routes connecting Arabia, Egypt, and the Levant, the city was not only a commercial hub, but also a melting pot of cultures. The Nabateans, with their negotiating skills and deep understanding of the traditions of surrounding cultures, had cultivated an environment where the influences of Arabs, Greeks, and Romans intertwined in a vibrant social mosaic. In this context, Nabatean leaders such as Aretas the Fourth not only focused on strengthening the economy but also promoted a sense of cultural identity that transcended commerce. The decisions made by these leaders impacted every corner of life in Petra. The construction of temples, markets, and homes was not merely an act of urban planning. It was a declaration of intentions, a legacy that sought to endure through generations. Daily life in Petra was a dance between devotion and commercial activity. The Nabateans practiced a polytheistic religion in which the worship of deities such as Dushara and Al-Uzza held a central place. Religious ceremonies, often held in the imposing temples of the city, were moments of communion and reflection. The inhabitants gathered to offer sacrifices and pay homage to their gods, seeking their favor to ensure good harvests and prosperity in their commercial endeavors. What did this devotion truly mean for them? Was it a reflection of the fragility of their existence in such a hostile environment? Commercial activities in Petra were equally dynamic. The markets were a bustle of sounds and aromas, where merchants offered exotic products, from eastern spices to vibrant textiles. The caravans, composed of camels traveling from distant lands, arrived laden with riches. The Nabateans, with their expertise in trade, not only exchanged goods, they also exchanged stories, culture, and knowledge. The central square of Petra became a meeting point where languages intertwined and ideas were sown. Amid this vibrant exchange, was there a latent risk that commerce could blur their cultural identity? The homes of the Nabateans, built with stone and adobe, were refuges that reflected their way of life. Families, often large and close-knit, shared the space not only with humans but also with the animals that were an essential part of their livelihood. Agriculture, although limited by the arid environment, was practiced in the surroundings of Petra, where ingenious irrigation techniques allowed for the cultivation of vegetables and grains. However, the dependence on rainfall and climate was always a reminder of the vulnerability of their existence. As the day faded, the home was illuminated by the light of oil lamps, where stories and myths were passed down from generation to generation. What mysteries lay hidden in the shadows of those walls? Public life was also marked by the interaction between citizens and their leaders. The Nabateans, despite being a society of merchants, valued justice and fairness. The decisions of the council, composed of the most influential members of society, were made for the benefit of the community. This system of governance, although with its own hierarchies, offered a sense of belonging and stability to the inhabitants. However, loyalty to their leaders could be tested in times of crisis. What would happen if their authority were challenged by external or internal factors? The immediate consequences of this daily life in Petra were manifold. Economic prosperity strengthened social cohesion, but it could also generate rivalries between clans and families. Competition for trade and resources could lead to conflicts, testing the resilience of the Nabatean community. Furthermore, external influence, especially from powers such as Rome, began to cast its shadow over the city, posing challenges that could alter the delicate balance of power. The enigma surrounding daily life in Petra lies in how these disparate elements, religion, commerce, family, and politics, could coexist, forming a social fabric that was both complex and vibrant. Could the Nabateans, with their ingenuity and adaptability, withstand the growing pressures of a constantly changing world? Or would they be swept away by the currents of history, leaving behind their traditions and identity? As we delve into the next stage of this story, we will explore the cultural influences that shaped the Nabataeans and how these interactions contributed to the uniqueness of Petra. What secrets awaited, hidden in the echoes of its streets and in the whispers of its inhabitants? If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. Everyday life, rich in trade and traditions, had cultivated a fertile environment for the convergence of cultural influences in Petra. As the Nabateans prospered, the city became a melting pot where the traditions of the peoples crossing its paths intertwined, from the Arabs and Greco-Romans to the Egyptians and Phoenicians. This chapter delves into the nature of these cultural influences, exploring how they shaped the identity of Petra and its enduring legacy. The historical context of Petra during this period is fundamental to understanding the cultural richness that permeated it. During the 1st century before Christ and the 1st century after Christ, the city was not only a commercial center but also a meeting point for diverse civilizations. The Nabateans, although initially nomadic, had managed to establish a complex society characterized by a sophisticated trade network and effective administration. This environment facilitated the arrival of ideas, practices and artistic styles from different cultures, which fused into a unique and particular legacy. Among the key figures of this period is Aretas the Fourth, king of the Nabateans during their peak. His reign, which spanned from the year 9 before Christ to the year 40 after Christ, was marked by intense diplomatic and commercial activity. Aretas the Fourth established alliances with nearby powers, such as the Roman Empire and Egypt, which facilitated an unprecedented cultural exchange. Under his leadership, Petra flourished and became a symbol of power and sophistication, reflecting the influences of the surrounding cultures. The decisions of Aretas the Fourth, such as the opening of trade routes and the construction of infrastructure, were also decisive in the cultural development of Petra. The caravans passing through the city not only transported goods but also ideas and beliefs. The architecture of Petra, with its fusion of Hellenistic and Eastern styles, is a tangible testament to this influence. The facades carved into the rock, such as the famous treasury, display elements reminiscent of Hellenic art, while the inscriptions in Aramaic and Greek reveal the coexistence of multiple languages and cultures. The development of these events was not limited to architecture, it also encompassed religious practices. Nabatean religion was polytheistic and worshipped deities such as Dushara and Al-Uzza, but contact with other cultures introduced new beliefs. Religious syncretism emerged as a recurring phenomenon, where local deities absorbed characteristics from other traditions, creating a unique and dynamic belief system. The immediate consequences of this cultural mixing were profound. The amalgamation of artistic styles, religious practices and social traditions allowed the Nabateans to create their own identity while facilitating their integration into a broader world. However, this cultural melting pot also raised questions. To what extent did the Nabateans maintain their original cultural identity in the face of external influences? Did they become mere recipients of other traditions, or did they manage to adapt and transform these influences into something entirely new? The enigma of Petra lies in this duality. Despite being a center of cultural exchange, the Nabatean essence seemed to resist disappearing. The artistic and architectural legacy left by Aretas IV remains a testament to the Nabataeans' ability to absorb and reinterpret influences, while their language and religious traditions endure as echoes of a vibrant culture. However, as history progresses, the question persists: what secrets of Petra's past still remain hidden in its shadows? As the city continued its cultural evolution, the Nabatean Empire began to expand beyond the borders of Petra, seeking new opportunities and relationships with neighboring civilizations. The next stage of this historical journey will take us to explore the expansion of the Nabatean kingdom and how its interactions with other cultures further shaped its destiny. This prosperity would soon attract the attention of neighboring nations, leading the Nabateans into a new phase of their history. In the heart of the Middle East, the twilight of history intertwines with the shadows of a kingdom seeking to expand its influence. In this chapter, we delve into the territorial expansion of the Nabataeans, a journey that would not only transform their own existence, but also alter the fate of the surrounding civilizations. By the end of the 1st century before Christ, the world was in a state of constant change. The region, rich in trade, was a melting pot of cultures where the paths of caravans and armies crossed continuously. The Nabataeans, shrewd merchants and skilled diplomats, began to devise a strategy for expansion that involved not only military conquest but also cultural and commercial integration. In this context, the Nabateans were not mere conquerors. They were complex actors on a stage of political tensions and fluid alliances. The figures who played a crucial role in this expansion included individuals such as Aretas III, a king whose reign marked the beginning of the consolidation of Nabatean power. Aretas III, known for his diplomatic and military skills, made strategic decisions that allowed the Nabataeans to extend their reach northward, integrating cities like Damascus into their trade network. With each advance, their influence became more evident, and the shadow of their kingdom loomed over neighboring civilizations such as the Romans and the Seleucids. In the year 85 before Christ, the Battle of Cana became a milestone in Nabatean history. Aretas III led his troops with an ingenious approach, utilizing knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla tactics to overcome a theoretically superior enemy. This confrontation not only solidified the position of the Nabataeans, but also left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the region. What secrets of strategy and alliances lay hidden behind this seemingly disproportionate victory? Nabatean expansion was not limited to military conquest. The Nabataeans understood that diplomacy was as powerful a tool as the sword. As they ventured into neighboring territories, they established trade and marital agreements that strengthened their position. Alliances with kingdoms such as the Hasmoneans allowed them access to vital trade routes and secured their place in the complicated political web of the time. But how much of these alliances was based on trust and how much on strategic convenience? With each new territory absorbed, the Nabateans not only expanded their influence but also absorbed cultural elements, creating a rich and diverse mosaic. The architecture, religion, and customs of the conquered peoples intertwined with Nabatean traditions, giving rise to a syncretism that challenged the notion of a monolithic identity. However, this cultural amalgamation also raised unsettling questions. Could this diversity be the weakness that would eventually lead to their downfall? The immediate consequences of this expansion were palpable. Nabatean cities such as Petra flourished under the new order, becoming centers of trade and culture. Caravan routes diversified, and wealth flowed into the city, attracting merchants from distant lands. However, with each victory, tensions with neighboring powers, especially the Roman Empire, increased. The shadow of Rome loomed on the horizon, and the central question that emerged was, how long could the glory of a kingdom that had grown so rapidly last? The enigma surrounding Nabatean expansion manifests in the accounts of their interactions with neighboring powers. Despite their cunning and skills, the Nabataeans never managed to establish absolute control. The relationship with Rome, which initially seemed to be one of mutual respect, would soon become complicated. Was it the excessive ambition of the Nabateans or the growing desire for expansion of Rome that sowed the seeds of an inevitable conflict? Thus, while the city of Petra shone with the light of its splendor, the echo of its territorial expansion resonated on the horizon, heralding the emergence of a new era of confrontations. The interaction of the Nabataeans with their neighbors would not only shape their destiny, but also mold the history of the region for centuries. The story of the Nabateans is undoubtedly a fascinating labyrinth of lights and shadows where every decision made by their leaders resonated in the surrounding lands. With each step they took toward expansion, the seeds of their future and perhaps of their own decline were sown. The transition to the next chapter leads us to a crucial moment: the relationships with the Roman Empire. This encounter promised to redefine the political and cultural map of the region, and the question persists. Could the Nabateans maintain their autonomy in the face of the growing pressure from one of the most powerful forces of the ancient world? That expansion of the Nabatean kingdom, which had sought its place in a constantly changing world, would soon lead the Nabateans to a greater challenge. The arrival of the Roman Empire, a vast territorial and cultural colossus, would pose a series of interactions that would shape the fate of Petra and its people. The relationships between the Nabateans and Rome were a game of diplomacy, trade, and strategies that, although often in the shadow of war, revealed a complex web of alliances and tensions. In the early decades of the 1st century before Christ, the political atmosphere in the Levant region was a mosaic of alliances and rivalries. The power of Rome was expanding, and its legions marched relentlessly, while the Nabateans, led by figures such as Aretas the Third, sought to establish their autonomy and strengthen their influence along the incense route and the spice trade. This period marked the beginning of complex relationships where trade, diplomacy, and war intertwined in a delicate balance. Aretas the Third, king of the Nabateans between 87 and 62 before Christ, was one of the most influential figures in the formation of these relationships. Under his leadership, Petra shone as a prosperous commercial center. Aretas's policy focused on maintaining a delicate balance between territorial expansion and negotiation with Rome. His ability to forge alliances and his diplomatic skill allowed him to establish connections that would prove crucial for the survival of his kingdom. However, the Roman advance was not something that could be ignored. The conquest of the surrounding territories by Rome, particularly the Kingdom of Judea, forced Aretas to make strategic decisions that would have long-term repercussions. As the Romans consolidated their power, interactions between both peoples intensified. In the year 63 before Christ, Pompey, one of the most celebrated generals of Rome, carried out a series of campaigns in the Levant. The capture of Jerusalem and the integration of Judea into Roman control brought the Nabateans to a crucial point. Aretas III did not hesitate to take advantage of this situation. Was it mere coincidence that shortly after the fall of Jerusalem, the Nabateans expanded their influence in southern Judea? Aretas positioned himself as a potential ally of Rome, offering his services as a mediator in the tensions between the Romans and the Jews. This maneuver was a testament to his political mastery, but also a risky game that could have led to the ruin of his kingdom. Trade exchanges between the Nabateans and the Romans flourished, turning Petra into a vital nexus in the trade routes of the time. The caravans crossing the desert carried not only spices and perfumes, but also Roman products, evidencing a bidirectional flow of goods and culture. Roman influence was felt in Nabatean architecture, which began to incorporate classical elements such as columns and pediments into its buildings. However, this cultural assimilation did not come without its own burden of tensions. To what extent were the Nabateans willing to cede their cultural identity in exchange for the benefits offered by the relationship with Rome? In the year 9 after Christ, when Emperor Augustus reorganized the provinces of the East, the situation became even more complex. The creation of the province of Arabia was an attempt by Rome to consolidate its control in the region. Although the Nabataeans retained some autonomy, the Roman shadow continued to loom over them. The arrival of Roman governors in the region marked a change in the dynamics of power. Aretas the Fourth, successor to Aretas the Third, faced the challenge of maintaining his people's independence in a world where Roman power was becoming increasingly pervasive. As the relationships between the Nabataeans and the Romans evolved, conflicts were not long in coming. In the year 36 after Christ, a confrontation between Aretas the Fourth and a Roman procurator over control of certain territories culminated in open war. This conflict, although brief, highlighted the underlying tensions and the fragility of the alliance. The decisions of Aretas the Fourth, who had been willing to confront the Roman power, raised the question, was the independence of the Nabatean people a price worth paying? The war, although short, had immediate consequences. The victory of Aretas the Fourth, although celebrated, did not halt the Roman advance. The impact of these events was profound. Trade relations continued, but distrust grew. The Romans, with their control strategy, began to establish bases in the area, altering the dynamics of power in the region. The caravans, once protected by the Nabataeans, began to be subject to Roman oversight. Could this have been a deliberate attempt by Rome to weaken Nabatean influence, or was it simply a broader integration strategy? As the Roman Empire expanded, the interdependence between both peoples became an enigma in itself. Although the Nabateans thrived through trade, the shadow of Rome loomed over them, blurring the lines between collaboration and submission. The question that emerges from this tangled web of relationships is unsettling. How far would the Nabataeans go to protect their cultural legacy in the face of the relentless march of Roman power? In this chapter, we have examined how the relationships between the Nabataeans and the Roman Empire were a reflection of the complexity of the politics of the time. From the shrewd diplomacy of Aretas III to the open conflicts under Aretas IV, each decision was imbued with the tension of an expanding empire and a people struggling for their identity. But the mystery does not end here. The history of Petra, a city that rose amid these interactions, is far from resolved. As we delve into the next chapter, we will focus on the era of Aretas IV, a period in which Petra reached its peak splendor. How did this king manage to balance Roman pressure and Nabatean identity? What legacy did this period of prosperity leave in the face of the imminent changes that lay ahead? The story of Petra is about to be revealed in all its magnificence, but also in its fragility. That era of prosperity and growth was marked by the figure of Aretas IV, a king who stood as the pillar of Nabatean splendor. Upon ascending the throne in the 1st century before Christ, Aretas IV became the architect of a golden period that would bring Petra to its greatest heights. In a context where trade and diplomacy were essential, Aretas IV not only consolidated his power, but also transformed Petra into a beacon of culture and wealth amidst a tumultuous world. The political and social environment of this time was filled with turbulence. The Levant region was a melting pot of civilizations where the Romans, the Greeks, and the Arab tribes competed for control of vital trade routes. Tensions among these powers were on the rise, and the Nabateans, under Aretas IV, found themselves in a unique position to capitalize on this instability. With their capital, Petra, at the center of the routes connecting Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean, Aretas IV used his diplomatic acumen to forge alliances and expand his influence. Aretas IV, known for his political skill and vision, was not only a military leader, he was also a shrewd diplomat. The decisions he made during his reign were fundamental to the development of Petra. One of the most significant was the expansion of his territory, which stretched from the desert to the shores of the Red Sea. This vast expanse not only ensured access to valuable resources, but also guaranteed control over the trade routes that made Petra a crucial hub in the spice and incense trade. In his early actions, Aretas the Fourth focused on strengthening relations with the Roman Empire, a risky yet necessary move. Although tensions were palpable, Aretas managed to maintain a position of respect and collaboration, avoiding direct conflicts that could have jeopardized his kingdom. However, his desire for autonomy was always evident, and his cunning allowed him to negotiate treaties that benefited both the Nabateans and the Romans. In this delicate power play, Aretas ensured that Petra not only survived but thrived, becoming a cultural center where Arab, Greek, and Roman traditions merged. The era of Aretas IV was also a period of architectural splendor. The city of Petra, already famous for its impressive facades carved into the rock, transformed into a symbol of power and wealth under his reign. The construction of monuments intensified, and works such as the treasury and the monastery rose as testaments to Nabatean greatness. These structures were not only impressive in their design, but also symbolized the devotion of the Nabataeans to their gods, as well as their desire to leave a lasting legacy. Daily life in Petra also flourished during this era. The streets, once dusty, filled with merchants and travelers who brought not only goods but also ideas and cultures. The squares buzzed with the hustle and bustle of trade exchanges, and the influence of Aretas IV was felt in every corner. The prosperity of the city attracted artists and thinkers, who found in Petra a conducive place for creativity and reflection. However, the story of Aretas IV is not without enigmas. As his reign progressed, internal tensions began to emerge. The growing influence of the Romans, although initially beneficial, started to generate distrust among the Nabateans. Could it be that Aretas IV, in his eagerness to maintain peace, had sown the seeds of future conflict? The decisions he made, while sound at the time, left a complicated legacy that would affect future generations. The immediate consequences of his reign were significant. Under his leadership, Petra not only reached its peak, but also became a symbol of power in the ancient world. However, this prosperity would not last forever. The shadow of decline would slowly begin to rise, marking the onset of a cycle of decline that would become evident in the following decades. The enigma of the era of Aretas IV lies precisely in this duality. How is it possible that a city that reached such heights could, in a matter of time, fall into oblivion? As the echoes of Aretas IV's glorious days still resonate in the memory of Petra, history invites us to reflect on the cycles of power and decline. On the horizon, new challenges loom that would threaten the stability of the Nabatean kingdom. The next chapter will take us to explore the decline of Petra on a journey that will unveil the reasons behind the fall of this majestic city, which, after having been a beacon of civilization, would become a lost enigma in the desert. That prosperity, however, would be threatened by external and internal forces that would contribute to the inevitable decline of Petra. In the last decades of the 1st century after Christ, a subtle yet profound change began to take shape on the horizon of trade. The city, which had flourished due to its strategic location as a crossroads of caravan routes, started to see its influence fade in the face of a series of transformations that threatened its legacy. The historical context in which this decline occurred is fundamental to understanding the fall of Petra. The arrival of new powers and the shift in trade dynamics marked the beginning of an era of uncertainty. The expansion of the Roman Empire, with its ambition to control trade in the region, was a determining factor. By establishing more efficient and direct maritime routes between the East and the West, Rome began to eclipse the importance of the ancient land routes that had once filled the Nabatean coffers. The rise of maritime trade, driven by the discovery of new routes to India and the East, left Petra in a secondary position. How could such a powerful city fall into irrelevance? The key figures of this era, such as Emperor Trajan and his successors, made decisions that would reverberate in the fate of Petra. The creation of ports on the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, such as that of Berenice, facilitated direct trade and displaced the Nabatean caravans that had dominated the land routes for centuries. The influence of the Romans intensified, and with it, the pressure on the Nabateans became unsustainable. In this context, the leadership of the successors of Aretas the Fourth could not withstand the tide that was approaching. Their attempts to maintain the autonomy and power of Petra were thwarted by the imminent Roman intervention. As the years progressed, the vitality of Petra faded. The decline in trade directly affected its economy, leading to a crisis that was felt in every corner of the city. The caravans, which had once been a common sight, began to dwindle. Daily life, which had been a bustle of exchanges and cultures, turned into a distant echo of what it once was. The wealth that had allowed for the construction of grand monuments like the Treasury became a nostalgic memory. But how deeply had this dependence on trade taken root in Nabatean identity? The lack of resources also led to difficult decisions. The Nabateans, in an attempt to adapt to the changes, began to diversify their economic activities. But the shadow of decline was long. Agriculture, although vital, could not compensate for the loss of income from trade routes. Thus, the architectural splendor of Petra began to fade, and the constructions, instead of being a symbol of power, became a reflection of the struggle for survival. The mystery that remains at this point is, could Petra have found a new direction, or was it doomed to be an echo of the past? The immediate consequences of these events were devastating. Roman pressure culminated in the annexation of Petra in the year 106 after Christ, making it part of the province of Arabia. This change not only meant the loss of autonomy but also altered the social and political structure of the city. The Nabateans, who had been merchants and leaders in their own right, found themselves subordinated to a Roman bureaucracy that did not always understand or value their culture. The caravans would no longer be the same. The echo of trade that once resonated in the streets of Petra turned into an unsettling silence. How could a city that had been the heart of regional trade fall into insignificance? The enigma surrounding the decline of Petra is not limited to the fall of its economic power. It also raises questions about the resilience of a culture in the face of adversity. Was the inability of the Nabataeans to adapt to changes in trade a reflection of a culture that had become too complacent in its greatness? Or, on the contrary, was the fate of Petra an inevitable result of external forces that were beyond its control? History is full of lessons, and the story of Petra serves as a reminder that even the most magnificent civilizations can fade into the mist of time. As we delve into the following chapters, the echo of these events will lead us toward the Roman conquest of Petra. That moment not only sealed the fate of the city, but also ushered in a new era in which the influence of Rome would forever transform the cultural and social landscape of Petra. What secrets awaited in the shadows of this transformation? What legacy would the arrival of the Romans leave in a city that had been a beacon of civilization? The story of Petra still has much to reveal to us. The annexation of Petra by the Roman Empire was not an isolated event, but rather the culmination of a process that had been brewing for decades. By the end of the 1st century after Christ, the Mediterranean world found itself at a crossroads. With an expanding Roman Empire whose ambition was insatiable, the lands of the Nabataeans became a focal point. The incorporation of Petra into the empire would not only alter the fate of the city, but also mark the beginning of a new era in the history of this enigmatic civilization. The political context of this time was complex. While Rome consolidated its power in the region, the Nabataeans enjoyed a period of relative autonomy under the reign of Aretas the Fourth. This monarch, a shrewd strategist, had managed to balance Roman influence with Nabatean traditions, allowing Petra to thrive as a vital commercial center. However, as Rome increased its control over the trade routes of the east, Petra's independence became increasingly precarious. The arrival of Pompey in 63 before Christ and his subsequent victory over the forces of the Nabateans would mark an irreversible change. The key figures in this narrative are undoubtedly the Roman leaders. Pompey, the brilliant general and politician, was the one who envisioned the importance of the region for Roman expansion. His decision to subjugate the Nabatean kingdom was driven by a desire to secure trade routes and increase the empire's revenues. But what was the cost of this ambition? To understand it, it is crucial to observe not only Pompey's actions but also the response of the Nabataeans. The Roman conquest began with a series of strategic military campaigns. The Roman legions, well organized and trained, quickly subdued the Nabatean territories. Key cities, including Petra, became priority targets. The battle that would define the future of the city took place on the plains near the rock. The Nabatean forces, though brave, could not withstand the onslaught of the Roman military machine. The defeat of the Nabataeans was a devastating blow. They not only lost their autonomy, but also faced a new order that would blur their cultural identity. The immediate impact of the Roman conquest was profound. Petra, which had flourished as a center of trade and culture, began to experience significant changes. The Roman administration, with its focus on infrastructure and efficiency, transformed the city. Roads, aqueducts, and public buildings were constructed, which, while improving connectivity, also altered the Nabatean uniqueness of Petra. The city was no longer just a bustling market of cultural influences. It was becoming a cog in the Roman machine, its cultural essence threatened by the homogenization of the empire. However, this transformation posed an enigma. Could Petra, under Roman control, maintain its cultural legacy and identity? As the Romans established their control, a troubling question arose. What secrets of the ancient Nabatean civilization would be lost in the shadow of this new power? The streets that once resonated with the echo of Nabatean traditions now pulsed with the heartbeat of a new era. But at what cost? As the echoes of the past faded, the story of Petra continued to unfold. The next stage would reveal how the Roman administration continued to shape the city, transforming its structures and daily life. The question remains, how would Petra adapt to this new reality, and what legacy would it leave for future generations? With the Roman conquest, the city, which had been a vibrant commercial and cultural center, faced an unprecedented transformation. The arrival of the Roman legions in 106 after Christ, under the command of Emperor Trajan, marked the beginning of a new era that would redefine not only the infrastructure of the city, but also its very identity. In the historical context of this period, the Roman Empire was in full expansion, seeking to consolidate its control over the trade routes that connected east and west. The annexation of Petra was not only a response to a strategic interest, but also a reflection of Rome's desire to control the trade of spices, incense, and other precious goods that flowed through this enigmatic city. Trade had been the beating heart of Petra, and now, under Roman administration, a blend of continuity and change was in sight. Among the key figures in this transformation was Trajan himself, an emperor known for his ambition and reforms. His decision to absorb the Nabatean kingdom into the Roman Empire was not merely a military act. It was a strategic plan to integrate Petra into a broader network of trade and communication. This move was not without resistance, as some local leaders and Nabatean tribes viewed the Roman arrival as a threat to their autonomy and way of life. As the Romans established their control, the decisions they made regarding Petra's infrastructure were fundamental. The construction of new roads, the creation of forums and public buildings, and the improvement of the water system were just some of the initiatives that were implemented. The famous Trajan's New Road, a path connecting Damascus with southern Arabia, became a vital artery that facilitated trade and troop transit across the region. In this process, the Romans not only imposed their authority but also adapted to local characteristics, integrating Nabatean elements into their architecture and urban planning. The development of these events was remarkable. The ancient trade routes were reconfigured, and Petra transformed into a city that reflected Roman grandeur. The Nabatean merchants, who had thrived under their own system, now found themselves immersed in an environment where trade remained important, but under the rules of the new empire. Roman influences became evident in daily life. Structures such as the Roman theatre carved into the rock emerged as symbols of this new era. However, the echo of its construction resonated with the shadows of local resistance. The immediate consequences of this transformation were profound. Petra became a key administrative centre within the province of Arabia Petraea, but at the cost of Nabatean identity. The prosperity that had once been exclusive to the Nabateans began to dilute in the vast Roman system, where the wealth of trade was now shared and often controlled by the Romans. The local culture, rich and vibrant, began to be overshadowed by customs and the Latin language, creating an enigma regarding the identity of its inhabitants. Did they remain Nabateans, or did they become Romans? This new order left a persistent question in the air. What secrets and traditions of the Nabateans were lost in the crucible of Romanization as the city flourished in its role as an important commercial center? The Nabatean roots faced an uncertain future, a shadow slowly fading on the horizon of history. With the advance of Christianity on the horizon, Petra was preparing to face another radical change that would transform its essence once again. In the following chapter, we will explore the arrival of Christianity in this city and the impact it had on its society and culture. The Roman Conquest was followed by a radical change in the worldview of the inhabitants of Petra, who would find themselves immersed in a spiritual transformation that would leave an indelible mark on the history of the city. Amid an ancient world characterized by syncretism and diversity of beliefs, the arrival of Christianity in these lands would represent not only a new spiritual path but also a new challenge for Nabatean identity. As the Roman Empire expanded, the teachings of Jesus began to resonate in the various regions under its control. In the 1st century after Christ, while Petra still enjoyed the echoes of its former splendor, Christianity began to gain followers in the communities of the Levant. The influence of this new cult did not occur in a vacuum. Rather, it emerged from a tumultuous social and political context where ancient deities and pagan practices began to lose their power in the face of a faith that promised salvation and redemption. The initial impact of Christianity in Petra was subtle but significant. From the heart of the city, the first Christian communities formed in the shadow of Nabatean temples, in an attempt to find their place in an already saturated religious landscape. Among the Nabatean leaders, some showed interest in this new doctrine, while others fervently clung to the traditions of their ancestors. In this scenario of tensions, the figure of a key character emerges. King Aretas the Fourth, who ruled during the transition from pagan to Christian influence. Aretas the Fourth, known for his diplomatic and political skill, made decisions that may have facilitated the arrival of Christianity. At a time when tensions with Rome were palpable, Aretas sought to establish alliances that could strengthen his position. However, the acceptance of Christianity was not merely a strategic move. Some historians suggest that Aretas the Fourth, in his quest for legitimacy and power, saw in this new faith the possibility of unifying his people under a new banner. Was it really so? Did the desire for power cloud his judgment, leading him to embrace a faith that could be perceived as a threat by the Romans? The Christians of Petra, under the influence of local leaders, began to gather in communities, often in repurposed spaces or excavated into the rock, where the echo of their chants reverberated against the stone walls. This environment reflected the internal struggle of the Nabataeans, facing the challenge of maintaining their cultural identity while exploring new beliefs. Stories of Christian martyrs began to circulate among the population, fueling a religious fervor that, despite its fragility, manifested in daily life. However, the advance of Christianity was not a linear path. As the first churches were established and symbols of this new faith rose, reactions of resistance emerged. The priests of the ancient deities watched with suspicion as their temples, once filled with devotees, began to empty. In this context, the figure of a new leader emerges. The Bishop of Petra, who, in his desire to evangelize, faced opposition from both pagans and Roman authorities. The impact of Christianity in Petra was not limited to the religious sphere. it also had profound repercussions on social and cultural life. Christian teachings promoted a sense of community and solidarity that, in many cases, transcended tribal and social divisions. The first Christian communities began to establish schools and hospitals, extending their influence beyond mere worship. Charity and care for one's neighbor became fundamental pillars of this new faith, providing a new model of social interaction. Nevertheless, the path to the full acceptance of Christianity was fraught with conflicts. The Romans, who had initially tolerated the new religion, began to see it as a threat to their authority during certain periods. The persecution of Christians intensified, leading many to seek refuge in the surrounding deserts and mountains of the region. The echo of their sufferings resonated in the rocks of Petra, while the city became a battleground of ideologies. As the 4th century approached, Christianity began to consolidate its position in Petra and in the Roman Empire in general. The conversion of Emperor Constantine to Christianity in the year 312 after Christ marked a crucial milestone that would alter the course of history. The ancient pagan structures were displaced, and new churches were erected that reflected the rise of Christianity as the official religion of the empire. However, this shift in power was not without its own internal conflicts, and the question remains: how many of those who embraced this new faith did so out of their own conviction, and how many did so under the pressure of the new order? The legacy of Christianity in Petra is an enigma that still endures. Throughout the centuries, the city experienced transformations that led to its eventual abandonment, but the traces of this faith persisted, leaving an indelible mark on Nabatean culture and identity. The ruins of the Christian churches found in Petra are silent witnesses to a time when this city became a crossroads for faith and culture. As we explore the shadows of Petra's history, we are confronted with the inevitable question: how could such a vibrant and diverse city be forgotten, and what secrets still lie hidden in its depths? The story of Petra is an echo of human struggles for faith, identity, and survival. With this backdrop of transformation and mystery, we turn to the next chapter, where we will unravel the process by which Petra was gradually abandoned and forgotten for centuries. A fate that seemed unimaginable for a city that was once the beating heart of a civilization. What led to its disappearance, and what was the price of its forgetfulness? If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. The transformation of the flourishing city of Petra into a distant echo of its ancient splendor was a gradual and complex process, as trade routes shifted and the power of the Roman Empire solidified. Shadows began to cover the majestic temples and vibrant plazas. At the heart of this process of forgetting, a series of events was unfolding that would lead the Nabatean city to become a vestige of its glorious past. The political and social environment that preceded the abandonment of Petra was marked by instability and decline. By the end of the 2nd century and the beginning of the 3rd century after Christ, the Roman Empire had reached its peak, but it also began to experience a series of internal and external crises. Invasions by tribes at the border, tensions in the eastern provinces, and the growing discontent of local elites created a climate of uncertainty. In this context, Petra, which had been a prosperous center of trade, began to see its resources and population dwindle. The figure of Aretas the Fourth, the last great Nabatean king who reigned between 9 before Christ and 40 after Christ, was crucial during this period of transition. Under his rule, Petra had reached its zenith, but after his death, the lack of strong and cohesive leadership left the city vulnerable. The decisions made by his successors, along with the increasing pressure from the Roman emperor, led to a series of compromises that weakened Petra's autonomy. In the year 106 after Christ, Emperor Trajan decided to annex the Nabatean kingdom, making Petra part of the province of Arabia. This decision marked a turning point as the city began to lose its prominence on the trade map. With the integration into the empire, Petra's economy was profoundly affected. The caravan routes that had brought wealth from Arabia and the Far East began to divert their paths. Roman merchants, who initially sought to take advantage of the rich Nabatean cultural legacy, soon began to prefer safer and more direct routes. This change in trade dynamics was a devastating blow. The city's coffers began to empty, and the once vibrant population started to disperse. Nabatean families, unable to sustain their ways of life, chose to abandon Petra in search of better destinations. As time progressed, the city sank into silence. The impressive facades carved into the rock, which had once been a symbol of Nabatean wealth and culture, began to be consumed by nature. Sandstorms and torrential rains eroded the structures, and the echoes of laughter and negotiations faded into the breeze. The last inhabitants of Petra became shadows, and the city turned into a mere memory, an enigma lost in the desert. The immediate consequences of this disappearance are evident. The transformation of Petra from a trading center to a deserted city had a profound impact on the region. The trade routes that passed through Petra shifted to other points, such as the city of Bosra and Damascus, resulting in a drastic change in the area's commerce. The cultures that had flourished in Petra began to fade, and with them, their legacy. The city, which had been a melting pot of civilizations, became a symbol of the fragility of power and wealth. However, the mystery does not end there. Why, despite its historical significance? Was the city forgotten for centuries? What secrets remained hidden in its time-worn stones? The answer to these questions lies in the very process of forgetting that consumed Petra, a process that is both a reflection of human history and the inexorable march of time. The enigma of the chapter looms over us. What lessons can we learn from the disappearance of a place that, in its time, was a beacon of culture and commerce? The story of Petra, which transitions from its splendor to its abandonment, invites us to reflect on the ephemeral nature of power and wealth. As the sands of the desert continue to cover what was once an architectural marvel, we look toward the future of Petra. The story is not over. Rather, it has transformed into a tale of rediscovery and preservation. In the next chapter, we will explore how Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, a 19th century adventurer, became the protagonist of a new chapter in the history of Petra. His expedition would not only reveal the secrets of the lost city, but also ignite the world's interest in this enigmatic place. That shadow of oblivion that had enveloped Petra for centuries was beginning to dissipate, and on the horizon of the 19th century, a new protagonist was rising in the quest for an ancient legacy. The echo of his footsteps would resonate in the mountains and canyons of Jordan, reviving a past that seemed to have been swallowed by the desert. Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, a Swiss explorer and tireless traveler, was about to delve into the mystery surrounding the lost city of the Nabataeans. The historical context in which Burckhardt undertook his expedition was complex. 19th century Europe was marked by a fervor for exploration and Orientalism, driven by a thirst for knowledge and adventure. As European powers vied for distant territories, the Middle East became fertile ground for dreams of discovery. In this environment, Burckhardt's figure stood out not only for his ambition, but also for his deep respect for the cultures he encountered along his path. In the year 1812, after studying Arabic and adopting local customs, Burckhardt found himself in the region of Syria, immersed in his quest for a route to the legendary place he had heard about in stories from merchants and nomads, Petra. It was in the year 1812 when Burckhardt, using his ingenuity and persuasive skills, managed to obtain permission to head south towards the mysterious land of the Nabataeans. With a group of Bedouin guides, he began his journey through arid landscapes and imposing mountains. The journey was not just physical, it was a journey to the heart of an enigma that had remained hidden for centuries. Burckhardt had heard rumors about a city carved into rock, a place that could be the very Petra spoken of in ancient chronicles. But what secrets still awaited in the depths? The characters who would play a crucial role in this story were not only Burckhardt and his guides, but also those who had lived in Petra and who, through the echoes of their culture, had kept the memory of its existence alive. As the expedition progressed, Burckhardt encountered the Bedouins of the area who, although familiar with the ruins, maintained an air of mystery about them. Their ancestral knowledge of the region was fundamental for Burckhardt to approach the great forgotten city. The arrival at Petra was a culminating moment, one that Burckhardt had anticipated with a mix of anxiety and excitement. In the year 1812, after days of arduous travel, the explorer found himself before a spectacle that would challenge his imagination. Before him stood the imposing facades carved into the rock, the magnificent treasury which seemed to rise from the bowels of the mountain like an echo from the past. Burckhardt, in his journal, described the awe he felt upon seeing that architectural wonder, an experience that not only confirmed the legends but also connected him to a broader history, that of a people who had thrived and then vanished from collective memory. However, the discovery of Petra was not just a personal triumph for Burckhardt. It was the beginning of a chain of events that would lead to the re-evaluation of the city in the historical and archaeological context. The publication of his findings in the year 1822, under the title Travels in Arabia, would awaken the curiosity of scholars and explorers from around the world. Through his accounts, the enigma of Petra began to be unraveled, although many questions remained unanswered. The immediate consequences of this rediscovered wonder were vast. The fascination with Petra spread throughout Europe and America, turning it into a symbol of the ancient Nabatean civilization and an object of study for archaeologists, historians, and travelers. However, as attention increased, so did the concern for the preservation of this legacy. The arrival of new explorers, tourists, and adventurers began to alter the balance of the region, leaving many wondering if what had been discovered could truly be protected. But was it really so? Did the fascination with Petra and its rediscovery bring more than just admiration? The lingering question is, how many secrets remain in the shadows of its lands, still waiting to be uncovered? Burckhardt's story is just one chapter in the intricate tale of Petra, a tale that continues to unfold in the present. As we contemplate the relevance of his discovery and the impact it had on the global perception of Petra, we prepare to delve into the next chapter. Modern archaeology would begin to unveil more mysteries of this ancient city, bringing with it new knowledge, challenges, and the promise of a future in which Petra would continue to reveal its secrets. What new truths and enigmas does the history of this extraordinary place hold for us? The revelation about the rediscovery of Petra, although enlightening, was merely the beginning of a new era where the echo of the ancient Nabataeans would begin to resonate once again in the modern world. Archaeology, in its constant quest to unravel the mysteries of the past, would delve into the depths of this lost city with the hope of preserving its legacy and revealing its deepest secrets. In the second half of the 19th century, attention towards Petra was rekindled not only by romantic expeditions but also by the awakening of scientific interest in the ancient ruins. This atmosphere of exploration was framed by a political and social context in which European colonial powers competed for control of territories in the Middle East. The Ottoman Empire, which dominated the region, faced internal and external challenges, and archaeology became a tool for both discovery and cultural reclamation. The search for the remnants of ancient civilizations was closely linked to the construction of national identities. Among the key figures of this archaeological renaissance was the British archaeologist Bertram Thomas, who, following the rediscovery by Burckhardt, ventured into the mysteries of Petra in the early 20th century. With his methodical approach, Thomas sought not only artifacts but also aspired to understand the life and organization of the Nabataeans. His work was supported by the growing popularity of archaeology in Europe, where scholars and adventurers united in their desire to comprehend the past. Thomas's decision to map and document every corner of Petra marked a turning point in modern archaeology. His meticulous record would serve as the foundation for future excavations. As the years progressed, excavations began to flourish. The decade of 1920 brought with it the arrival of new generations of archaeologists, including the famous American archaeologist Edward Robinson, who had made significant contributions to the study of the ruins. Robinson, with his systematic approach, focused on identifying the structures and interpreting Nabatean architecture. His work culminated in a series of publications that would shape the modern understanding of Petra, but also opened the door to a dilemma. Was archaeology preserving history, or was it irreversibly altering it? The unfolding events of this era were marked by the growing pressure of modernization. Expeditions multiplied, and with each new excavation, not only objects were unearthed, but also questions. Archaic techniques of excavation and conservation began to be replaced by more contemporary methods, though not without controversy. The introduction of heavy machinery in excavations sparked a debate about archaeological ethics. Was it justifiable to sacrifice the integrity of a site in the name of scientific progress? The immediate consequences of these excavations were profound. The revelation of treasures such as the famous Treasury of Petra, an impressive structure carved into the rock, attracted the attention of tourists and scholars alike. The site began to become a symbol of Nabatean history and culture, but also an emerging tourist destination. However, with the increase in tourism, concerns arose about the preservation of archaeological sites. The pressure of development and the influx of visitors began to jeopardize the fragility of ancient structures. Thus, modern archaeology faced not only the challenge of unearthing the past, but also of protecting it from the whirlwind of the present. The enigma of this chapter is clear. Can modern archaeology preserve the essence of a place like Petra? Or is it doomed to transform its secrets into mere exposed memories? The search for answers to this question leads us to explore the cultural and economic impact that Petra would experience in the 20th century, when it would become a national symbol and an international tourist destination. The story of Petra, in its complexity and beauty, continues to reveal itself in every corner of its ancient structures. But what secrets still awaited in the depths, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to explore its legacy? The shadow of Petra's past extended beyond its imposing rock facades, even in the tumultuous 20th century. As the world plunged into conflicts and drastic transformations, the city, which had slept under the mantle of oblivion, began to awaken. The crisis of identity on a global scale would soon reverberate in this ancient Nabatean enclave, turning it into a national symbol and a renowned tourist destination. In the early years of the 20th century, the political and social context in the Middle East was complex and tumultuous. The fall of the Ottoman Empire at the end of the First World War marked a radical change in borders and land control. The region that we now know as Jordan came under British mandate, a situation that, while promising stability, also brought with it the shadow of colonialism and the struggle for self-determination. In this new political landscape, the ancient ruins of Petra began to emerge from the shadows, a testament to the greatness of a forgotten civilization. The key figures in this rebirth were, to a large extent, the explorers and archaeologists who, driven by a spirit of adventure and curiosity, ventured to explore the lands of the Nabataeans. One of them was the British archaeologist A.M. McGowan, who, in 1920, conducted significant excavations at the site, revealing structures that lay hidden beneath the sand and time. His work not only fueled academic interest in Petra, but also attracted tourists seeking to connect with the history of humanity. But who were these explorers really, and what motivations drove their quest for lost treasures? In their eagerness to rediscover the past, were they not also shaping the future of the city? As the century progressed, the narrative of Petra as a tourist destination began to take shape. In the decade of 1950, the Jordanian government, aware of the economic potential that tourism offered, initiated efforts to promote the city as a historical jewel. It was in 1958 when Petra officially became a national park, a milestone that marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of this ancient metropolis. authorities began to implement measures to facilitate access for visitors, building roads and improving infrastructure, which in turn attracted an ever-increasing number of tourists eager to explore the secrets of the lost city. However, this transformation was not without challenges. The massive influx of tourists raised concerns about the preservation of the site, a dilemma that continues to this day. Every step taken by a visitor on the ancient streets of Petra resonated like an echo of the past, but also left a mark on its fragile environment. The decisions made by the Jordanian authorities during this time would have lasting consequences, both for Petra's cultural heritage and for the local communities that depended on it. Could tourism truly be a lifeline, or was it a double-edged sword capable of stripping the city of its essence? The events of this period, marked by the growing popularity of Petra, also unfolded within a context of international tensions. The Six-Day War in 1967 and the subsequent occupation of territories by Israel brought with them a climate of uncertainty in the region. The image of Petra as a safe haven and a symbol of peace became even more relevant, and its promotion as a tourist destination intensified. International marketing initiatives highlighted not only its architectural beauty but also its cultural significance, turning Petra into a symbol of Arab heritage and an emblem of Jordanian resistance and national identity. The echo of these events is still felt today as the city continues to attract millions of visitors from around the world. However, the question persists: has Petra become merely a tourist attraction, stripping away its profound meaning and cultural legacy? What secrets still remain hidden in its stone labyrinths, waiting to be discovered by those seeking more than a simple visual experience? As we delve into the next chapter of this story, it is vital to reflect on the conservation challenges that Petra faces today. The pressure of tourism and climate change threaten to blur the outlines of a legacy that has endured for millennia. Can the decisions and actions of today preserve Petra's past for future generations, or will it fade into the sands of time once more? The growing popularity of Petra has transformed into a contemporary dilemma that directly affects its majesty. Over the years, the lost city of the Nabataeans, a legacy of human ingenuity and architectural beauty, faces increasingly alarming conservation challenges driven by mass tourism and climate change. This chapter delves into the shadows of this archaeological wonder, revealing a mystery that could jeopardize its very existence. Since its rediscovery in the 19th century by Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, Petra has attracted millions of visitors from around the world. This constant flow of tourists, eager to explore the wonders of the city, has generated a vibrant local economy, but it has also left its mark on the delicate balance that sustains this historical site. The current context surrounding Petra is one of duality. On one hand, there is the desire to preserve an invaluable heritage. On the other, the need to foster the economic development that tourism provides. The decisions made by Jordanian authorities in recent decades have been crucial. The establishment of the Petra Development and Tourism Region Authority in 2009 marked an attempt to manage the tourist influx and protect the cultural heritage. However, the implementation of effective policies has been a constant challenge as the pressure from tourism continues to rise. How can the conservation of such a fragile site be balanced with the economic needs of a community that largely depends on visitors? In this context, key figures such as former ministers of tourism and park authority directors have attempted to address these issues through sustainability initiatives and environmental awareness. However, the decisions made have often been criticized for their lack of depth. The construction of new infrastructure to accommodate tourism, while essential, has raised concerns about its impact on the local ecosystem. The footprints left by visitors on the stone paths, alongside the erosion caused by changing weather, serve as a constant reminder that every step counts and that every decision has consequences. As the chapter progresses, it becomes evident that the development of these events is not linear. The effects of climate change, with its extreme droughts and torrential rains, have added a layer of complexity to Petra's already fragile situation. In 2018, for example, a sudden flood caused devastation at the site, eroding monuments and revealing the impact of weather on Nabatean architecture. This event served as a wake-up call, a reminder that time does not forgive and that nature can be both ally and enemy. The immediate consequences of these circumstances are unsettling. The erosion and deterioration of structures have led to a critical debate about how restoration should be approached without compromising the authenticity of the site. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, which declared Petra a World Heritage Site in 1985, has urged Jordan to intensify its conservation efforts, but the solutions are complex. Is it possible to preserve the essence of Petra while implementing measures that ensure its survival in an uncertain future? The enigma surrounding the conservation of Petra deepens further when considering the interests at stake. While some advocate for more restricted access to protect the monuments, others argue that limiting tourism could harm the local communities that depend on it. What secrets still remain hidden in the depths of this ancient city, and what sacrifices must be made to protect them? The future of Petra hangs by a thread, and the decisions made today will determine the legacy it leaves behind. The outlook for the future of Petra is filled with uncertainty. The question looming over this archaeological wonder is clear. How can its preservation be ensured for future generations while fostering economic development? As the chapter concludes, the transition to the Nabatean culture in the present leads us to reflect on the continuity of a legacy that, despite the challenges, remains alive in local traditions and heritage. What marks will today's decisions leave on the history of Petra, and what legacy will be passed on to future generations? That connection between the past and the present becomes palpable when we contemplate how Nabatean culture has managed to survive over time, transforming and adapting, yet without losing the essence that defines it. In the heart of Jordan, among the shadows of its majestic rock structures, unfolds a rich cultural legacy that, although often overshadowed by the vast history of the world, continues to resonate with the energy of its ancestors. Nabatean culture, far from being a distant echo, manifests itself in local traditions and heritage, revealing a mystery that invites exploration. Throughout the centuries, the region that was once the epicenter of Nabatean civilization has witnessed the passage of empires, religions, and cultures. However, today, the Jordanian people, particularly the local Bedouin communities, continue to preserve and celebrate traditions that connect them to their roots. This intertwining of the ancient and the contemporary presents a fascinating testimony to cultural resilience. The historical context that precedes this phenomenon is essential for understanding the evolution of Nabatean culture in the present. Following the Roman Conquest and the subsequent neglect of Petra, many of the Nabatean knowledge and customs were threatened by assimilation and change. Christianity, which began to gain ground during the 1st and 2nd centuries after Christ, brought with it new practices and beliefs that influenced the local population. Nevertheless, the essence of Nabatean culture never completely extinguished. Instead, it became an underground thread that continued to flow through generations. Among the key figures who have influenced the preservation of this cultural heritage are tribal leaders and local activists, who have fought to keep traditions alive in an increasingly globalized world. These guardians of cultural legacy have made crucial decisions that have allowed for the revitalization of festivals, dances, and artistic practices that reflect local identity. The creation of community spaces for teaching the language and traditional music has been fundamental in transmitting these values to new generations. The development of cultural events, such as local music and poetry festivals, has been an essential piece in this cultural mosaic. These events not only celebrate Bedouin heritage but also attract visitors from around the world, creating a bridge between history and the present. Traditional music, dance, and gastronomy are showcased and shared, fostering a sense of unity and pride that resonates in the hearts of Jordanians. However, the challenges are significant. Despite efforts to keep local culture alive, the impact of mass tourism and modernization threatens to dilute authentic traditions. How can communities balance the desire to share their history with the need to protect their heritage? Is it possible for local culture so rich and vibrant to become a spectacle for consumption, losing its essence in the process? The immediate consequences of these events and decisions are palpable. Cultural revitalization has led to a renaissance of local pride, where Jordanians see themselves as heirs to a rich history. This phenomenon not only reinforces local identity, but also boosts the economy through cultural tourism. However, the dilemma persists. Can Nabatean culture survive in a rapidly changing world, or is it destined to become a memory of the past? The enigma surrounding Nabatean culture in the present invites deeper reflection. What secrets still await in the fabric of these traditions? What new narratives emerge from the encounter between the ancient and the contemporary? The answer to these questions lies not only in history, but in the ability of communities to adapt and revitalize their heritage. As we explore this fascinating legacy, we cannot help but wonder how Nabatean culture reflects in the broader scope of history. In what ways has it influenced the representation of Petra in cinema and literature? The following chapter will take us on a journey through those representations, where the mystery and majesty of Petra continue to captivate the world. The fascination with Petra, the ancient city of the Nabataeans, soon manifested itself in the collective imagination, where it would begin to be seen in a different light. As the 19th century progressed, interest in the ruins of Petra grew, but not only in the archaeological realm. The intersection between literature and cinema began to emerge as a new stage where the echoes of history would transform into modern narratives, shaping the global perception of this jewel lost in the desert. The 20th century witnessed a surge in the representation of historical and mythical places in popular culture as technology and media expanded. Petra, with its rock-hewn architecture and aura of mystery, captured the imagination of writers and filmmakers, becoming a symbol of adventure and exploration. In this context, the Nabatean legacy intertwined with the narratives of explorers, archaeologists and artists, all seeking to bring to life the shadows of what was once a vibrant metropolis. One of the first to contribute to the modern mythology of Petra was Johann Ludwig Burckhardt himself, whose rediscovery of the city in 1812 not only opened the doors to the Western world, but also sowed the seeds of countless artistic representations. His account of the beauty and grandeur of Petra captured the attention of writers like Agatha Christie, who in the decade of 1930 made this place the backdrop of her novel Murder on the Orient Express. In this work, Christie not only presented Petra as an exotic setting, but also fueled the public's curiosity about ancient civilizations and their mysteries. As the decades passed, cinema would also begin to pay homage to Petra. The film Lawrence of Arabia from 1962, directed by David Lean, brought the image of the city to the big screen, showcasing its stunning facades in a context of intrigue and conflict. The figure of T. Lawrence, a man caught between two worlds, became a symbol of the search for identity and connection to the past. The images of Petra, in its vast and arid lands, resonated in the collective psyche, solidifying its status as a place of adventure, mystery, and sublime beauty. The impact of cinema on the perception of Petra was not limited to its visual representation. Each film, each novel, each tale contributed to creating a modern myth around the city, a place where ancient legends intertwine with contemporary narratives. But did these representations truly reflect the essence of what Petra was, or were they instead constructing an idealized image that distorted the historical reality? The resurgence of Petra in popular culture had immediate repercussions on tourism. As films and books captured the attention of a global audience, more and more travelers ventured to Jordan to experience the majesty of the city for themselves. However, this massive influx of tourists also brought significant challenges for the conservation of the site, raising critical questions about how to balance the desire to explore the past with the need to protect it. Thus, we find ourselves facing a conundrum. Has popular culture served to celebrate the greatness of Petra, or on the contrary, has it contributed to its erosion? The romantic vision of the city, fueled by cinema and literature, raises questions about the authenticity of tourist experiences and the cultural legacy that is transmitted. In a world where image often eclipses reality, what truths remain hidden in the shadow of the myths we have created ourselves? Looking ahead, the next chapter will take us to explore the contemporary economy of Petra, a place where the echo of ancient trade routes confronts the demands of modern tourism. How is the economic future of this lost city being forged, and what stories still remain to be told in its rich and complex history? The disappearance of the ancient glory of Petra, which once resonated with echoes of trade and prosperity, had left the region in a state of uncertainty. However, in the 21st century, a new phenomenon was emerging from the shadows of the past: tourism. In this chapter, we will delve into the economic impact of tourism in the region of Petra, a setting where ancient history and modernity intertwine in a delicate balance. After centuries of abandonment, Petra was rediscovered in the 19th century, a finding that not only reignited interest in its majestic rock-hewn structures but also sowed the seeds of a new economic future. However, the transition from a forgotten archaeological site to a global tourist destination was not straightforward. The 20th century, marked by political fluctuations in the Middle East and a growing international focus on cultural heritage, laid the groundwork for the renaissance of Petra as an icon of tourism. Jordan, a country with limited resources and an economy dependent on foreign aid, saw in Petra a golden opportunity. Since the 1980s, the Jordanian government began investing in tourism infrastructure that was crucial for attracting visitors. This political and social environment, characterized by the search for new sources of income and the need to preserve a cultural legacy, became the backdrop for the flourishing of tourism in Petra. The role of the Jordanian government was fundamental in this process. Under the direction of the royal family and various tourism ministers, policies were implemented that favored the creation of tourist routes and the promotion of Petra at international fairs. In particular, King Hussein, who ruled for much of the 20th century, understood the importance of Petra not only as a national heritage but also as an economic engine. His vision was accompanied by strategic investment decisions in infrastructure, including hotels, restaurants, and public services, which facilitated access to this historical gem. Nevertheless, this approach was not without controversy. The pursuit of maximizing tourism revenue often clashed with the need to maintain the delicate balance of this archaeological site. The pressure to attract more visitors led to decisions that prioritized short-term economic growth, sometimes at the expense of the cultural and environmental integrity of the place. Today, tourism in Petra represents a significant part of the Jordanian economy. Since Petra was designated a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1985, the number of visitors has grown exponentially. In 2019, before the global pandemic, Petra received more than 1 million tourists, a phenomenon that brought both economic benefits and considerable challenges. The revenue generated by tourism translates into employment for thousands of people in the region, from tour guides to local merchants selling crafts and souvenirs. The economic impact is palpable. However, the massive influx of tourists has also raised concerns about the wear and tear on the site and the pressure on natural resources. The need to maintain a quality tourist experience without sacrificing heritage conservation has become a constant challenge for site managers. The decisions made regarding tourism management, from controlling the number of visitors to implementing entrance fees, have been the subject of intense debate. While some argue that a more restrictive approach could preserve the site in the long term, others contend that this could stifle the economic vitality that tourism brings to the region. The economic benefits of tourism in Petra are undeniable, but they are also complex. The arrival of tourists has revitalized the local economy, providing a steady flow of income that allows communities to thrive. However, this prosperity comes with challenges that could threaten the legacy of Petra. How can one balance the desire to preserve a cultural heritage with the need for immediate income? What happens when the mass of visitors overshadows the historical significance of the place? As tourism continues to shape the economy of Petra, questions about its sustainability become more urgent. The relationship between local residents and visitors, between the glorious past and the present filled with tourists, becomes a field of tension. Local communities must navigate between pride in their cultural heritage and the pressure to adapt to the demands of modern tourism. As we explore the contemporary economy of Petra, we face a complex dilemma. Is it possible that the pursuit of economic benefits through tourism could undermine the very heritage that attracts visitors? While tourists marvel at the majestic beauty of the city, what secrets of its history might be lost in the process? The question persists. What will be the legacy of Petra in a world where tourism can be both savior and destroyer? As we move towards the next chapter, a new aspect of Petra will be revealed, its recognition as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. This status not only highlights the cultural importance of the city, but also raises questions about how this heritage will be managed in a context of increasing tourist pressure. Will Petra be able to find a balance between conservation and the economy? Or will it become trapped in a constant struggle for its own survival? The mystery of its future awaits us. The renewed interest in the rich history of Petra, a place that after centuries of neglect was beginning to rise from the shadows of time, found a climax in its international recognition. In this context, the designation of Petra as a World Heritage Site by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in 1985 not only marked a milestone in its history, but also symbolized the urgent need to preserve one of the most enigmatic wonders of antiquity. The global landscape of the 1980s was complex. The Cold War dominated international relations and geopolitical tensions were palpable in various regions of the world. However, amidst this turmoil, movements advocating for the conservation of cultural heritage emerged, driven by a growing recognition of the invaluable value that these legacies represented for humanity. Petra, with its vibrant history and monumental architecture, stood as a testament to Nabatean civilization, a culture that had flourished in an arid environment, transforming rock into art and adversity into prosperity. The process that led to Petra being considered a World Heritage Site was driven by a set of key actors. First, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, under the leadership of figures such as Amadou Mahtar Mbow, its Director General at that time, recognized the universal importance of the site. The decision was supported by the Jordanian government, which understood that preserving Petra meant not only protecting its cultural heritage, but also promoting its image on the world stage. This conservation effort was motivated in part by the desire to attract tourism, but also by a genuine sense of responsibility towards history. The nomination was presented with a focus on the uniqueness of Petra, the combination of its innovative architecture, which fused Hellenistic and Eastern styles, along with its historical function as a crossroads of trade, made it an exceptional place. The facades sculpted into the rock, such as the treasury and the monastery, not only challenged the imagination but also told stories of a people who had known how to adapt and thrive in adverse conditions. The decision of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization was a recognition of this legacy, but also a call to action. Could humanity ensure that this jewel did not fade into oblivion once again? The development of these events was methodical and deliberate. In 1984, a thorough assessment of the site was conducted, where archaeologists and conservation experts examined the integrity of the structures and the sustainability of the surrounding ecosystem. This work not only highlighted the beauty of Petra, but also revealed the threats it faced, from natural erosion to the impact of mass tourism. The pressure exerted by visitors, while vital for the local economy, was beginning to raise concerns about the preservation of its monuments. The immediate consequences of this recognition were manifold. First, there was an increase in investment in conservation and restoration projects, as well as a push to implement regulations that would limit the impact of tourism. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, along with the Jordanian government, initiated educational programs aimed at raising awareness among both visitors and local communities about the importance of preserving this heritage. However, not everything was a smooth path. The tension between development and conservation became a persistent dilemma. Could Petra sustain its legacy while adapting to the demands of the modern world? The enigma that looms over Petra after its designation as a World Heritage Site is profound. Despite the efforts made, would this city continue to be a symbol of the cultural wealth of the Nabataeans, or would it ultimately become a mere tourist destination? Stripped of its essence? The story of Petra is ultimately a reflection of the tensions between conservation and progress, a dilemma that has haunted many wonders of the world. In the echo of these reflections, the story of Petra continues to unfold today, driven by archaeological and scientific research that unravels the secrets of its past. What new mysteries await in the depths of this ancient city? The next stage of this exploration will lead us to discover how ongoing research is revealing even more about the life, culture, and legacy of the Nabateans in a rapidly changing world. The designation as World Heritage opened the door to new discoveries. In the vast desert of Jordan, where the shadows of the ancient buildings of Petra glide like echoes of a lost time, archaeological research continues to reveal secrets that have remained hidden for centuries. From the rise of the city to its eventual abandonment, each layer of rock and sand is a silent witness to the history of the Nabateans, and contemporary archaeologists are determined to decipher their messages. In a historical context marked by the transformation of the region, interest in Petra has resurged with strength. As the world enters the 21st century, technology and advanced research methods have allowed scientists and archaeologists to unravel the mysteries of this ancient city in ways that were previously unimaginable. The use of techniques such as photogrammetry, laser scanning, and remote sensing has provided new perspectives on the layout and urban design of Petra. These modern tools allow not only for the precise mapping of the city, but also for the identification of structures that were previously hidden by erosion and sand. Among the key figures in this research are individuals like Sarah Parkak, an archaeologist who uses satellite imagery to discover ancient sites. Her work has revealed details about the actual extent of Petra, which goes far beyond the main tourist area. How did the Nabateans manage such a vast area? What tools did they actually use for their constructions? These questions are just the beginning of a journey towards a deeper understanding of Nabatean civilization. Alongside her, teams from universities around the world, in collaboration with the Department of Antiquities of Jordan, have been conducting excavations in areas of the city that have yet to be explored. Their findings have included ceramic utensils, coins, and remnants of structures that indicate a vibrant and active life in Petra long after its decline. Each discovery is another step towards reconstructing the history of Petra. But it also raises new questions. What do these findings mean for our understanding of the continuity of life in Petra after the Roman Conquest? The development of these events has been methodical. The excavations, which are carried out under strict preservation measures, have allowed researchers to uncover not only artifacts but also patterns of settlement and economic activity that reveal the complexity of Nabatean society. Studies on water, for example, have shown that the Nabateans were masters in managing this vital resource, building systems of channels and cisterns that allowed them to thrive in such an arid environment. The immediate consequences of these discoveries are significant. The international community is beginning to become more aware of the importance of Petra not only as a tourist destination, but also as a site of invaluable worth for the study of ancient civilizations. The increasing interest from scholars and students of various disciplines has led to the creation of exchange programs and international collaborations, which in turn has increased funding for ongoing research. However, the enigma of this chapter is not limited to physical findings. As archaeologists dig deeper, they face a dilemma that could change our perception of Petra forever. Were the Nabateans merely shrewd traders? Or was there a cultural and social complexity that we have yet to fully comprehend? What other secrets might be hidden in the shadows of their tombs and temples? In every fragment of pottery and in every carved stone, there is an echo of a richer and deeper story, a narrative that is still waiting to be told. With each new finding, the history of Petra is rewritten and expanded, adding layers to a legacy that has stood the test of time. As research continues, a critical question arises. How does the local community relate to this heritage that is not only theirs but also belongs to humanity? The answer to this question will lead us to our next chapter, where we will explore the connection between current communities and the ruins of Petra, and how the past continues to live in the present, shaping identities and destinies in a place where history never stops. Archaeological research unveils the complex relationship between local communities and the iconic site of Petra. In the vast desert of Jordan, the lost city of the Nabataeans was not only a commercial center and an architectural marvel, but also a space where the lives of its inhabitants intertwined with the majesty of the sculpted rock. As we explore this intersection between historical legacy and contemporary life, it becomes evident that the echoes of the past resonate in the identity and customs of the communities that inhabit the region today. The historical context of Petra is fundamental to understanding how local communities have interacted with this site over the centuries. From its peak during the Nabatean era, when it became a melting pot of cultures between Arabia, Greece and Rome, to its eventual decline and rediscovery in the 19th century, Petra has witnessed a series of transformations that have shaped its social environment. The strategic decisions of leaders such as Aretas the Fourth, who consolidated Nabatean power, or the subsequent annexation by the Roman Empire, laid the groundwork for a complex relationship with the communities that have always lived in its vicinity. Among the key actors in this narrative are the Bedouins, who have inhabited the surrounding area for generations. These groups, which have kept their ancestral traditions alive, have often found themselves caught between the monumental legacy of Petra and the realities of the modern world. As tourism began to flourish in the 20th century, the decisions of Jordanian authorities and international organizations regarding the conservation and development of the site had a direct impact on their lives. Were these decisions truly in the benefit of the locals, or did they represent a form of exploitation of their cultural heritage? The unfolding of events surrounding the local community and Petra has been characterized by a series of tensions and adaptations. During the peak of tourism, the Jordanian government promoted initiatives aimed at integrating Bedouin communities into the tourism economy. However, the massive influx of visitors also brought challenges, such as pressure on local resources and the erosion of cultural traditions. The communities, which once directly benefited from the veneration of their history, now face the paradox of being both guardians of a monumental legacy and victims of their own popularity. The immediate consequences of these events are revealing. On one hand, local communities have had the opportunity to generate income through tourism, selling handicrafts and offering guides to visitors. On the other hand, they have experienced a loss of autonomy in the face of the economic and political forces that dictate the narrative of Petra. The rooting of Bedouin traditions has been threatened by the commercialization of heritage, raising a troubling question: to what extent can communities maintain their cultural identity in a world that seems to value spectacle more than authenticity? In this context of dualities, a central enigma arises. How can local communities navigate between the preservation of their culture and the economic imperative of tourism? The answer is not simple and often lies in the tension between the desire to protect their legacy and the need to adapt to a constantly changing world. is it possible to find a balance in which the story of Petra remains a source of pride and sustenance without becoming a mere spectacle for external delight? This chapter reveals a fundamental aspect of Petra. Its life is not limited to stones and monuments, but is intertwined with the stories and struggles of those who surround it. Amid this intersection, the question arises of what the future of this relationship will be. Can local communities turn this challenge into an opportunity, or will they be condemned to be mere spectators of their own history? As we delve into the next chapter, we face the uncertainty of Petra's future. What efforts are being made to ensure that this site, which has withstood the test of time, continues to be a symbol of resilience and pride for its inhabitants? The future of Petra is not only at stake, but also depends on the decisions made today regarding its community and its heritage. As we delve into the final chapter of our journey through Petra, it is impossible not to feel the echo of centuries resonating in the majestic pink rocks that once were the beating heart of Nabatean civilization. From the splendor of its peak to its silent fall into oblivion, Petra has been a silent witness to human history. However, at this decisive moment, we face a new type of challenge: the future of Petra, a puzzle that requires our attention and action. Currently, Petra finds itself at a crossroads. The echoes of the past are increasingly vulnerable to the forces of the present. Climate change, the rise in tourism, and the need for financial resources have begun to threaten the integrity of this architectural wonder. To better understand the situation, it is essential to consider the historical context that has shaped the perception and preservation of this important site. From its rediscovery in the 19th century by Johann Ludwig Burckhardt to its designation as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1985, Petra has captured the imagination of visitors from around the world. This interest has led to an unprecedented increase in tourism, which, while beneficial for the local economy, raises unsettling questions about the balance between conservation and exploitation. The key players in the preservation of Petra are numerous and diverse. From the government of Jordan to non-governmental organizations and academics, all share a collective responsibility in protecting this legacy. However, not all decisions made have been wise. In the 1990s, for example, the increase in tourism led to the construction of infrastructure that, while necessary, altered the landscape and the visitor experience. This duality between the desire to share the beauty of Petra with the world and the need to protect it has become a constant dilemma. To what extent can a door be opened without undermining the essence of what is being protected? The development of these events has been dynamic and often contradictory. While recent initiatives have sought to implement sustainable tourism practices, the constant growth of tourist influx has generated greater wear on ancient structures. The imposing facades carved into the rock are suffering from erosion caused by human traffic, climate, and pollution. In this context, conservation efforts have intensified, but they are not always sufficient. The looming question is, will these remedial measures be effective enough to preserve the essence of Petra for future generations? The immediate consequences of this situation are palpable. The local community, which has seen tourism as an opportunity to revitalize its economy, faces a dilemma. The economic prosperity that tourism can bring also carries the burden of responsibility. Every step a visitor takes on the ancient stones, every photo taken, contributes to a wear that could be irreversible. Furthermore, the pressure on natural resources and infrastructure can lead to degradation that, if not controlled, could transform Petra from a living heritage into a forgotten ruin. The enigma left by this situation is profound. How can we honor and preserve the legacy of such a rich civilization without sacrificing its integrity? What secrets of history and Nabatean culture still await revelation, and what legacy will we leave for future generations? The search for answers to these questions is more relevant than ever, and it is a challenge that requires the collaboration of governments, communities, scientists, and visitors. Looking towards the future, it is crucial that more innovative and effective conservation strategies are implemented. Visitor education, tourism regulation, and the use of advanced conservation technologies are just some of the paths that can be opened. However, it is also imperative to foster a sense of collective responsibility. Every person who steps on Petra must become a guardian of its legacy, understanding that every action counts in the protection of this sacred place. As the contemporary world advances, Petra must adapt without losing its essence. The interaction between the past and the present must be a delicate dance where history does not become a mere spectacle, but a lived experience, rich in meaning and respect. The Nabatean community, with its deep connection to the land and its history, plays a vital role in this narrative. Its voice must be heard, its heritage valued, and its future secured. As we close this chapter, it is essential to remember that history is never truly complete. Petra is a palimpsest of time, where each generation writes its own narrative upon the ancient stones. The future of Petra is a puzzle yet to be solved, a story unfolding before our eyes. Thus, we face the final question. Are we willing to take on the responsibility of protecting and preserving this legacy for future generations? The answer to this question may determine the fate of Petra, and with it, the echo of a civilization that still has much to tell. At this point, we must reflect on the impact that the history of Petra has not only on our understanding of the past, but also on how we relate to the present and the future. Petra is not just a monument of stone, it is a reminder of what humanity can achieve as well as what it can lose. The lost city of the Nabataeans, with its impressive legacy, invites us to look beyond the visible, to discover the mysteries that still resonate in its silence. What legacy will we choose to leave? The answer, as always, is in our hands.